minutes.
Isn't that supposed to be 26 cubic yards instead of 26 minutes? The fee is based on, is that in line on?
Yeah, that's correct.
It's supposed to be what?
26 cubic yards, the fee is
Oh,
based
okay.
on 26, not 2600.
Okay.
And then Mike's deck, you left the eye out on Mike, so probably do it.
Okay.
Otherwise, I won't care. I move we approve the minutes of Monday, November 19th, with the corrections mentioned.
Have a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
See, yeah, Matt, you here for a war, we'll do that real quick.
Yeah, I've got Alan Allerman and Mark Gentry, brought them up to receive their service awards. Alan is
32.
He's only 40 years old. That's not many people. Seems like it, I remember when you were there.
Alan, on behalf of Aspen County, appreciate you for your 32 years of service to Aspen County. This is an award from Kansas Association of Counties, so thank you for your service. Hope you have another 32 years with us. Mark, on behalf of Aspen County, I want to thank you for your 24 years of service, and you also get a nice award certificate from Kansas Association of Counties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take a few photos.
Thank you for your service.
I forgot that. Now we can.
I'll act like you like it.
I'm short, I'm used to standing up front.
Well, first off, I guess you come.
I'll get my motor in there. Get down on your knees.
Whoa, wait a minute. Okay. You ready? Okay. Let's do it now.
Yeah, I got that. I can work out that. Pass on to it, so.
We're in the wrong end of county right now.
Okay.
I had one PO, do you wanna go and do that, or do you wanna wait?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get it. Go
Got one, purchase order for a 96-inch culvert for a 310 and Cherokee. Yeah. The other figure was if we run it through a machine, had them off long enough.
Okay.
So, right to get it. Alan Allen, 32, and Ginger was 24. Mark Ginger.
On 286, that next to Burton Road is speed limit sign. Yeah.
Okay. 26 and Vernon.
Yeah. And then, well, you said that on Hill's Road, about a mile or so south, I think two really bad spots. And then he said that that road is starting to even get narrower, I told you about that's on your plan next year.
Where was that at?
Yeah, Hill's Road, south of it.
Yeah.
That's on your plan. I told him I thought that's probably, but,
He actually called me about that, and I went out and looked at it.
okay.
I was aware of it, but, yeah,
All right,
no.
fine.
Yeah.
Well, I told him I thought that was on my plan for next year.
Yeah, yeah.
Really been lighting that, sort of deterioration of the.
Yeah, we'll go out, we'll take our lay down sheen out and we'll patch anything that needs patched and then we'll seal it after that.
Thanks, Matt.
Phil?
Oh, I'm kind of here just to listen and stuff, but just
Okay,
about the
okay.
trash stuff, I mean, I guess if I were to speak, I would just say, I'm just trying to find out, you know, we were assessed, kind of, not necessarily came out of the blue, I knew there was something coming, but looking for some kind of equity with that. Why are we, you know, I saw the numbers of what the public schools and stuff are charged, why are the private schools, you know, I run a lean operation, there is no room. We charged about 5 times more than the public schools, or 10 times more than one of the other ones. I don't understand when we're so much smaller. So I know there's some, I know I have to address it with Chase, I don't want to make a big deal about it like that, I just know that it needs to get addressed, so.
We're gonna do some discussion today, as far as coming up, and it's like, you were not here Monday, but, you know, we stated, you know, we are gonna be equitable on this, we are working with people, you know, we're gonna be fair and honest with this, so we are working through it, so it's a big fundamental change to the entire system, so.
Yeah, I want to pay a fair share, but I want it to be equitable with the other schools and stuff. I mean, I think we like having a private Catholic high school here in town.
Okay.
To keep it here and keep our tuition at the lowest of anywhere in the whole Kansas City area for day students, so.
Okay. And I think Chase, you're gonna set up.
Yeah, I'll set some up, Chase.
Yeah.
I just came to really listen more than anything else.
Okay. Donna, do you have something
I just have a
real
quick
quick?
purchase request.
Okay.
If I may. We have what are called electronic file stamps in our office, and this is what we use to process documents that are filed with hard copies. I have 2 file stamps that, well, one's not working at all, the other one is not advancing the ribbon. And so I'd like to purchase 2 new, please, and the price is listed there.
$78.66. Thank you. Okay, Chad?
Okay, yeah, I did want to say something to keep it brief. You talk about communication, but yesterday I had a conversation with a trash hauler who will put an 8-yard recycled cardboard container and pick it up every other week, basically for nothing, just to do it with the cardboard. The cardboard will be hauled to a recycle center. And I've had I put in a 2-yard container picked up once a week for the rest of my trash. Now, the thing is, as it works out, it's going to be less than I was paying for hauling. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, most of us didn't think that through on each individual basis, you know, how we can make our trash more efficient up front. And I think that if I would have known this kind of charge was going to come down the pipe in advance, I would have probably taken some of these actions. So I think that maybe all people need to talk to their trash haulers and see what they can work out, because it's like a no-brainer. We have a lot of cardboard. Cardboard's light, but it can be easily recycled and keep it out of our refrigerator.
And I think, well,
We tentatively have scheduled a meeting with the law for Tuesday to see what additional roll-offs, what additional recycling resources that they can offer immediately starting, if we get into the contract January 1st, if they can provide dumpsters for single stream or cardboard, or we need to see what we can do with them and trust them on our side to incentivize people using cooperative containers for fibrous materials, for cardboard, for Ripple Glass, because, as you said, recyclers or trash haulers really want separated recyclables because it's profitable for them, so they are going to give you
And,
a very...
you know, I'm sorry, I mean, I think if the light would have gone off a long time ago, I believe in the idea of trying to lower our trash and recycle thing. I personally believe in that.
Mhm.
So I think it's, and I think almost everybody in the room would agree with that. The thing is, what I hate is the fact that a lot of us use a local trash hauler,
Mhm.
and Deffenbaugh's a large multinational company, and I hate to not give our local trash haulers an opportunity to come up with the same situation, so. And I haven't talked to Martin, he must be out of town, I heard called him a few times. I haven't given that back to me, but I assume that he could provide those services also.
We actually invited all the private haulers up here so that we can communicate, see what they can offer in terms of services, and also, as a matter of policy, how that's going to affect their business. We haven't been in contact with Martin's, so I assume in the next coming weeks, seeing as how they're going to field a lot of calls concerning their trash services, we will meet eventually, and we will work something out and let them know.
Because I feel so strongly about buying local.
Right.
And we have not, you know, as far as like local haulers, we have not done anything that would discriminate or go against them. And that, like you said, we're trying to get us local, definitely.
If Deffenbaugh can make money recycling materials, Martin can make money recycling materials. You may not be set up to do it. You might want to give us some
We've
opportunities.
said, I mean, pretty much all along, it's a great opportunity, as now we're seeing a lot more interest from, obviously commercial, now we're starting to see commercial maybe starting to push that cart, ahead a little bit quicker, as well as we're getting some interest, outside in unincorporated areas too.
Because my non-recyclables is like a bag a day. I mean, it's hardly a bag. Almost all my material is recyclable.
Recycling, yeah. I think that's just kind of mainstream, I think, industrial, commercial products have been designed to stuff that's like highly recyclable. I mean, cardboard, we'll just use cardboard as an example, you're seeing some more bulk style.
Well, I don't know if you know this, 80% of everything purchased today will be in the landfill in 6 months. 80% of everything purchased today will be in the landfill in 6 months. It sounds like a crazy statistic, but it's a fact. Think of the packaging and
We diverted a good portion of that, but,
okay, that's,
okay.
oh, the other thing, you guys will discuss this.
Yeah, I think Chase is gonna Chase has a couple suggestions on ways that we can do with the solid waste fee and working with non-residential.
Okay, so obviously we've already budgeted and we are dependent on what we projected to operate our solid waste. So after Monday's discussion, we realized if we were to make any reductions or defer or do something different with our fee structure other than plan, we are going to need a lot of help in reducing costs for us as well, so that we can, we are more than willing to make different concessions in terms of reducing rates, different payment schedules. And we really do want cooperation as far as trash reduction in the community. And if a business, we haven't come to any, we haven't passed policy, we haven't passed a new amendment to our resolution, but we are considering a number of things. We do have to crunch numbers with several departments to see if it's feasible. But hopefully by Monday, we'll have an answer as far as what we can do to reduce what, instead of, say, the 50% due by December, we can reduce that rate, and then if a business were to enter an agreement that they will reduce either by recycling or reducing their individual dumpster pickups and or both, that we would be able to work with, because we can justify reducing our solid waste utility fees and its revenues as long as our expenditures go down as well. And if we can get cooperation with local businesses, it's very feasible that we can do that. And we are happy to do that, because one thing that was reiterated is that we don't, in this particular instance, people feel we haven't communicated enough. So we do want to encourage communication, we want to encourage cooperation. We can reduce our side if the other side can, if the trash usage and generation in this county can go down as well. So it wasn't, it definitely gave us some different ideas as to what we can do with the fee structure. It's not like we want to just press this on people and not make concessions, because we don't want people to be overburdened and their businesses to close as a result of this policy. So we do want to cooperate, and we can't stress that enough, that we can cooperate as long as people are willing to cooperate and are willing to communicate with us, as it's been reported in Monday's meeting. If we can communicate, we can make our adjustments to our fee structure. We can make things happen that are more palatable, that are more reasonable. But at this point, we don't know anything resolute, but we are considering several different scenarios, several different options, and we'll have something on Monday. And we'll be happy to discuss it with everyone to see what is palatable, what's workable.
What time's the meeting?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock?
I applaud you for having a discussion.
So, I suppose I would ask, you brought up a good point in that if you did contact, if you do have a private hauling service, do they have recyclables? With the city's recycling program, obviously, we thought that commercial recycling would be more of a phase 2 further down the road part of the program, but now that we have seen the willingness to reduce and the willingness to recycle as a means of reducing the rate and reducing everyone's overall cost.
I could be able to run it on Monday, Chase. Is that something?
Yeah, I think he was just probably looking for some guidance and suggesting that phase 2 is like essentially like 2014, but we're starting to see, based on comments, we're starting to see some people inquiring about it sooner than what we thought, which is great.
Is the recycling business in the downtown corridor at all? I don't know if I've ever seen where you put in recyclables class or...
No, but we have discussed with Deckelbach to put a ripple glass in some areas. We will know more as far as our capabilities with if anything needs to go through the transfer station with the person that we've awarded the contract through for our recycling services on the county side. We'll know more about what we want to really discuss is how, and obviously not every business is generating just cardboard. I understand that, for instance, restaurants can only reduce so much because their trash is generating foodstuffs.
glass.
And glass.
Especially ground glass.
Some of the glass can be diverted out pretty quickly.
The glass can be diverted out, but there is this total that just can't be reduced because you don't want to offer smaller, you don't want to reduce the product in the restaurant businesses either. So we do understand that there are circumstances, sometimes convenience stores, they have food stuff that you can't recycle. They have to go in the trash. So we want to hear.
That's green trash, right?
We don't have mandated compost, so.
No, but I mean, the green trash contains it's differently also.
It could. We don't have the facilities yet in town, but people can compost on their own. We can do neighborhood. I mean, the composting idea is something that can be done in the air, but what we do want is to open discussion up as to ways that we can, we want to have a discussion as far as what businesses can do and what businesses are willing to do to give us an idea of what's feasible in terms of our scale back. If we can scale back the fee structure significantly because significant reductions are out there, we're happy to make that happen. So, any suggestions as far as, I mean, obviously we would like for people to, if they can, recycle, and reduce either the dumpster size or its pickup schedules. But, other than that, we just need, input for our purposes.
Am I up? May I approach the bench?
Yes, you may.
Here you go, Mary. I'm sorry, I had to pay 50 cents a copy to the county to get copies, so I only got $3 worth. I think most of us, if we didn't hear the comments on the radio this morning, from Jeff, about the city and the county not working together. I just want to bring a few things to light. Yesterday, Pauline was gracious enough to send me a copy of the budget of the 2013 county budget, which, looking at that budget for the 1 cent sales tax, this is where I'm going with this. The budget amount for the solid waste is $918,000. The joint communication budget amount is $421,000, for a grand total of $1.34 million for ease of math. Now, I was still concerned about the double taxation that we're going to have here. Looking at this current, and I apologize, I don't have copies for everyone. And first off, take a look at the sheet there. This is based off of 2011 sales tax figures. $1.6 million was created by 1 cent sales tax, which 84% of that is generated out of the city of Atchison, and the rest of the 16% of it is generated out of the county. It's county-wide. We're all county citizens. Going down through here, what's collected and what's sent back to the county, do you disagree that $731,000 does not come back to the county direct from the state? Do you disagree with that?
I don't, other than this sheet, the first that I've seen of something like this, I mean, I couldn't tell you without looking at something offhand.
Okay, my information says that $731,000 come directly back to the county, not going through the city or any of the other city municipalities, coming straight back. Is this wrong or right?
No, I don't think that's right.
So, if these numbers coming from the state are incorrect?
No, I think that's our portion, that's the.
No, this is what's sent directly to you from Topeka.
You mean countywide or is that all of them?
He's talking about like the total amount of dollars sent directly to the county.
44.77% of the 1 cent sales tax is directly sent back to the county. And to continue with that, 50% of that sales tax that's collected that comes through the city, which is a tune of $829,000. If you rotate over there, the city of Atchison, there's no doubt in my mind, they drag $424,000. That's what it says here.
Okay.
They drag it. They pay $405,000 back to you to do the trash collection.
And joint communications.
And communications.
Yes.
All right. With that ease of math, between the $700,000 and the $400,000, that's $1.1 million to do communications and trash. You go along with that math. So that leaves a $200,000 deficit to cover both of those. Side note, what this program that you put together for on the trash tax, I'm going to call it for ease of, it's an assessment, a trash tax is gonna generate to the tune of $800,000 as it's written today. What I'm saying is, this is double taxation. We're only short $200,000. The intent of the whole one-tip sales tax was there for the purpose to take care of solid waste and communications. I understand we want to candy coat this and say we get along really good with the cities and we're gonna, all I'm saying is, tell them what it costs. If it costs $1.3 million to operate this thing, then send them a bill according to the rest of the communities, so we don't have to do this. But what's the problem, Jeff? You're telling me how we're communicating with the city, but I don't think we're telling them everything.
Derek, the 1% sales tax is still a fundamental funding problem, and.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Why would it be a fundamental funding problem? We have people coming into our community, paying for our trash. Why is that a problem?
What is the correlation between sales tax and trash generation?
They're paying for,
No,
why is there
what
a
is
correlation? We're generating funds. We're generating funds.
Which
Are we not
Generally,
generating?
sales tax, you can survey any city, county, entity. Generally, sales tax funds are primarily derived for a specific project, not maintenance and operations.
I don't know that that's, why do we, not every town in the country has a mall going down the middle of it either, but we're the only ones left. It must be a good thing for us to do. I don't understand, if we're comparing here, I don't understand if it's been working since 1993, and we're going on the assumption that we're going to abolish it in 3 years, which we don't know that the voters will go along with that. We have, and then we're retroactive charging back to the 1st of January of 2012. We are getting double taxed. Explain to me how we're not getting double taxed. I'm not complaining so much about paying another $5 a month to get my trash picked up. I'm not complaining about the overgeneration of what the hardware store, Atchison Auto Parts generate to get their trash picked up. I'm not complaining about that. Really, I'm not, Jeff. But what I'm telling you is we're getting double whammy.
And I think you were out of the room, but we were discussing, Chase had a very good presentation, that we are working on this. We're trying to work out some equitable solutions that would reduce that fee and the impact to the businesses.
I understand that too, but the problem is you've already budgeted the money that you have already done.
Now, let's do some quick math. If we reduce our revenues based on solid waste fee.
Which you've already done. You've already got a new bid from Deffenbaugh or Waste Management that you were already reducing those fees. You're already going to reduce possibly some through attrition, some payroll reductions. I understand that part. But if we're not really fixing the problem, we're going back to double taxation. Explain to me how this isn't double taxation.
Okay, so if we reduce the revenue side, we've got to also reduce your expense side, and that's what we were discussing. We are getting a lot of good discussion from non-residential especially on, we would help, looking at these fees, what can we do right now to reduce our impact, and what can we do to reduce it? So that would reduce the overall fee, which would reduce the overall, what you're calling double taxation. This is assessment, just like any other type of utilities assessment that's used, used any city, any county, any government agency. The double taxation that you're talking about, like I said, this is a transition. This is a completely transition, and we are going to address in 2013 the sales tax. And there are some good possibilities, and we haven't discussed as a board what some of the solutions be. That's something that will occur in a countywide summit with everybody, and we're hoping in January of next year.
Okay, with that said, I understand, but the city has $424,000 when really by your budget numbers, we only need another $200,000. See what I'm saying? By your budget, it's only going to take $1.34 million to run it. So there's $400,000 that the city is dragging, so of that, we can fix this problem without having anything. without input. Explain to me why this isn't gonna work, you already got the money. It's held down here. Tell me how that communication is working with the city and the county, please. Explain that to me. They're sitting on $400,000 of our money. They're not sending it up here because there's no communication. Am I not seeing something here?
You're correct that there has been withholdings. You're correct.
So you stated this morning on the radio, we're holding hands and singing the Coke song, but they're holding on to $400,000 of our money. We're having to get a tax assessment. His poor intuition, he's gonna tell the kids at school to take their trash home from War Hill to put it in their trash. Am I wrong here, Jeff? It's a yes or no.
Derek, you've got a complicated question that you've asked.
No, they're sitting on $400,000 of our money. We're all county people, you, me, all of us. They're sitting on $400,000 of our money. Are we not telling the public what they're supposed to, or are we hiding something here? Is the city hiding something? Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, because nobody else is telling me I'm wrong or I'm right, you just tell me I'm wrong or I'm right.
Derek, I'll interject here. I don't normally do this, but the city, county, 1 cent sales tax went into effect in the early 90s.
None of us were here then, as far as officials.
At that time, when that went into effect, there was no stipulation in the statute that they had to turn all that money over to the county that they got back.
Okay.
So, they was working under that assumption that they didn't have to turn it back. So,
But they
and
did.
years later, the administration of the city decided that they're gonna hold on to some of that tax money.
And they
There
have,
was nothing the city could do about it to force them to give it.
or the county could do about it, to force them to give it to them.
Yeah.
My understanding in talking with city officials, that all we have to do at the county level is tell them what we need and they'll send us the money. Is that not correct? I feel like I've got a chihuahua and a pit bull fight here for all the citizens of Atchison. When I say the fight is between the county and the city, I think that's what we're doing. Why can't we just give them the billing and say, this is what you owe us for the continuation of this, and let's bring it out. We want to be transparent, let's bring it out.
And that's the whole point of having that countywide summit, is because now we're bringing in everybody.
But the thing is, it's being charged today. It's being charged by the 20th. I understand that we want to come up with a program, but probably 2/3 of the community, well, only 2/3 of the community is probably getting their tax statement. The rest of them are sent to a mortgage company because they're already getting a withdrawal, so they're going to have to go ahead and pay it. It's just not good taxation. I guess I'm not getting it through to my simple mind how this is not a double dip. They're sitting on $400,000 worth of my money, your money, all of our money that are consumers. I mean, I hate to reiterate this. There's $400,000 sitting there. You only need $200,000 more to take care of the whole doggone thing. I'm not even going to, this doesn't even include the other 5 entities that collect sales tax. This is just the city of Atchison.
Can I say something? I was on the city commission at the time when the city started withholding. In fact, it was basically my recommendation. And let me tell you why. The money was sent to the city, and all we were doing at the time was, the check came from the state of Kansas, and the next day we returned and wrote a check back to the county. My first year working on the budget, I was learning the ropes. Second year, I asked the question, what is this? Why are we doing this? The money was given to the city. We were supposed to be good stewards of those funds. At that time, the only thing that the city requested from the county back then, and I know that's not today, was an invoice. We wanted to know what it cost were we putting this money, was all the money that we were giving to the county at the time being used as designed? By the way, the reason we have a 1 cent sales tax to handle the trash is because that's what the voters wanted. And in essence, and here's probably one of my issues, you guys, and I don't want to say you guys, because that's a generic term, but what we have decided to do at the county level is to override the voter choices, which was to pay for our solid waste and our joint communications with the sales tax. And I think what Derek's talking about with double taxation, that tax is still there. You're still collecting about $700,000 from the state, about $400,000 from the city, minus what they're holding out. But you're also going to collect about $800,000 more dollars for the same tax year. And Jeff, that is taxing the public twice. And I'm not in here for a fight about it, but the problem has always been, when I was on the city commission, we ended up auditing so we could make a determination on how much money the city should be transferring back to the county. We had to audit the county because we couldn't get numbers. There is a constant and unnecessary smoke throwing all the time when it comes to these numbers. And I think it's very fortunate, number one, that we're here at all, that this problem couldn't have been solved before you implemented your budget. And you really, the county did not, nor has the city, in my opinion, really gone back with this whole recycling thing and really showed any benefit at all, other than we're going to reduce some hauling expenses. But I don't think the communications has been there since the year 2000, I know. And it's still kind of the same. It's all kind of shooting from the hip. Like Larry Wilcox said yesterday, he says, I didn't follow this thing till I opened up my tax bill. But I don't think that information has been relayed to the community, particularly to the people who are paying it. But I do think that the county taxpayers decided that that's how they wanted to fund their solid waste and their joint communications. And you guys have said, well, there's no correlation. Well, if you're going to go by correlation, you have a tipping fee. You don't go by measuring this guy's dumpster and saying he's got so much, let's take it times 12, da 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 da. I don't think that's a pretty fair way to do that. You have to look at, that's why I say tipping fee would have been far better off. Because then, number one, you'd have billed the people who were bringing the trash there, number one. And number two, we would have been able to pay for it monthly. But now you've got it all coming due in today. So there's, not only, I have issues with the fact that it's double taxation. Number two, that it's all due at one time. And number three, that it's probably unnecessary to do what you're doing. And I'm not opposed to paying for what we got to pay for. But I do think that when you collected $700,000 from the state this year, plus $400,000, and you're going to collect $800,000 more, that's first off more than you need. And unless you have determined by yourself to take some of the sales tax money and start funding some of the ambulance expenses. And if you are doing that, it's never been relayed to the public or the people who are paying for it. And if that's what you're doing, tell us that's what you're doing. But you can't just, Jeff, you probably, I've told you this, and this is one of the issues I had when they built the new jail. There was so much money in joint communications, they took $1 million out of that fund and used towards the jail itself. $998,000. That's because there was too much money. And now we're going to be in a situation where we have too much money. That's what we're mad about. And I'm not really mad. I'm just a little bit aggravated that this whole thing came to a head, and this meeting should not even be happening. Monday should not have ever happened. There should have been, everybody should do it on the same page, and because we all agree, everybody here pays taxes. Everybody wants to make our county the best we can possibly make it. But the communication aspect, really, truly, is not very good. I'm not trying to say that critically, it's just an observation. I'm through.
Bill, you're right, because I know I've communicated with some of you. In all actuality, and, I'm only gonna speak from my perspective too, I had to really wrestle with the idea of using some of the sales tax money, because we were faced with a $400,000 new assessment for the ambulance service. That's the only reason I supported the concept. I did not support $61. I don't think that much is needed. There is some merit in a user fee. There really is. But when it all comes back to it, when you look at the figures the way I see them here, a 1 cent countywide sales tax would come real close to funding ambulance, solid waste, and joint communication. Really close.
I'm all for it. And this, and
But
not to
we
interrupt
can't-
the conversation with you and Bill.
Yeah, but Derek, the thing is we, when I came into Iowa and ran buckets, and I thought, well, we could change. I spent 2 days secret trying to see what we could get, whether we could get something resolved, because I knew, and I found out that we had, if it was gonna be done right, we had to do exactly what you guys did with the ball play. Is you gotta go to the legislature.
Yeah, and it's not quick. It's not quick.
No,
I
that's what
understand
I found
it.
out. You
But-
only have a short window of frame
Oh,
time to present.
it's terrible.
Yes.
It's terrible the way it happens. But with that, though, fellas, they're sitting on $400,000 of our money. Now, they're not telling us, and I'm not pointing to Jack, the city's not telling us that they're using the balance of the funds to help with CSOs. That we're not gonna talk about that. And we're not gonna talk about we're using the balance of to take care of the ambulance. Sadly, it's sad on all their parts. But the problem is, I think we got the best group that we could possibly have in here to govern our county and city. So all I'm saying is, we are getting double whammy. Here's the thing, as you said on Monday, and I know how the wheels turn in Topeka. They ain't gonna talk about it this year in 13, they're gonna talk about it in 14, maybe, and then you gotta bring it back and convince the public that that's what we wanna do. All the time, you're gonna generate probably, after expenses and everything, you're gonna generate about another $800,000 to $1 million. Yeah, you are.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, just based on the.
I'm just using numbers, but the problem is.
And we are too, we're using.
Well, the problem is the numbers were not accurate enough in my, hey, I'm not gonna ring, Mike Steck's bill here, but, there's 43% of the accumulation that's not even accounted for. But and really, I'm just going on the information that I have. I have not even close to the information that you guys have. If these figures are incorrect, you need to tell me, and tell the rest of the public these numbers are incorrect. Not one time have I heard that the county I thought all the money came through the municipalities. Not one time has I ever heard that the county gets direct from the state $700,000. Not one time. All I ever heard is the city is shorting the county. The city is shorting the county. And not from you guys. This is from other constituents out there that are uneducated in this. I'm just saying, does it not appear that it's double whammy? It appears that it's double whammy.
You're right in the standpoint of, when you strictly, because of what the voter intent was. And that's what I'm saying, I have a really hard time wrestling with. Because what I decided to go on even with the concept of this, we have now diverted some of that sales tax money. Essentially, the shortfall, and I don't want you to pick all together on the city back.
I'm not
I
at all.
have two cities in my constituency that are withholding, but that's because.
We're following the lead.
Yeah, okay.
We're following the
All
lead.
right. You weigh that justification out however you want to, okay? I weigh it out.
We're following the lead.
So, this is, like you said, it's not gonna be an easy thing to fix. We could have abandoned this idea. We could have got by funding. I'm gonna hand you some sheets of the information I put, and a lot of this is audited. I mean, I think your sales tax is a little bit short, not much, but somewhat short. That's
Give me 10%. Give me 10%.
You want the sheet?
And that's fine, but again, I think a year's worth of study, maybe, hindsight being 20/20. Listen, I could have been up here in June and July finding out what's going on, but the interpretation that I had on our paper media was that, it was just, everybody's gonna get charged $61. I thought they were balancing out for everybody. Well, another $5 a month, what do I care? But it's a lot more than that.
Based on volume.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than that. And,
The option, we could have made up that 400,000, I mean, we could have just not used that for that.
oh, I got
And
it.
we could have put it on, I mean, it would have been another 3 mills on property. That was our other.
Well,
that was
you-
our other-
with all of this involved, Well,
but that's your.
I mean, looking at your, on your budget of 2013, there's $800,000 budgeted for ambulance. $800,000.
That's
That's $650,000 for the ambulance and some contractual.
That's not even including 2 ambulances that we have purchased.
It's $800,000. I don't know what that consists of. I don't know what you get back. I don't have the income sheet. All I have is just the expense sheet here. It's amazing to me. I don't understand why, I don't understand how that works. It's not my job, but it is a job of somebody to convey what this is.
Yeah, we don't want to take a lot, I can explain a lot, because I guarantee we have all spent a lot of time.
I know that, I know that.
It's not a simple fix. And it's
Well,
gonna be-
I don't know, and again, I don't know how in the world you postpone this thing. I don't know how you credit it, I don't know how you do that. But I do know that if it continues the way that it is, you're gonna put in a lot of businesses, I mean, the businesses are getting assessed half of the trash fee. I don't know if they generate half the trash, I don't have any idea. But it's pretty knee-jerk. The whole situation is pretty knee-jerk.
Well, we didn't do it completely, we did do a study, we hired a firm so we weren't coming in blind. I mean,
I know,
one
I think
revenue source of like 4 that they suggested, and that's to be.
I think the windows were frosted over. You may not have been blind, but you were frosted over. I don't know if you got all your
I don't
money
agree with that.
worked
I
out.
don't really agree with that. I mean, because we have city and county commissions both look at that and agree
Again,
on it.
You tell me how great the communication is between the city and the county or in all the cities, but I'm still concerned that they're sitting on $400,000 of our money that with the intent by the voters of Atchison County was to take care of it.
Do you see where this is a fundamental problem? This isn't just an issue, it's a fundamental problem.
I don't think, but again, why? Why?
The way it was written.
I don't know that it's-
Explain, Pat, we can get statutes on it, I mean.
I don't know, but the intent that it was sold
They're a little
to the electorate, that it was gonna take care of solid waste and communications. I understand the backroom discussions. I understand those. I understand the good old boys club stuff. I understand that. But they're sitting on the money consistently every year, and then everyone's gonna pay. See, this has got a trickle-down effect. Your contributions to the non-for-profits isn't gonna cover what's gonna be pulled out of this community off the profit side for the trash assessment. It's got ramifications that go all the way down the mountain.
And I think, that's the point, that's the reason, when I was getting into this, I thought a much lower fee to transportation would put it easier on it, because, let's face it, I'm not gonna pick on you, but generally speaking, businesses pay very little sales tax.
Huh?
Well, when you buy stuff, do you have to pay sales tax on all those stuff you buy at the hardware store?
Hell yes. You wanna check the state records?
Yeah.
Every one of us do.
When you buy,
But-
you don't get the retailer's, discount, because you're gonna put it for resale? In other words, if you have a chainsaw, you're gonna collect the sales tax on it.
How much do you think that I buy out of the hardware store when I'm not buying it at Country Mart, which I pay full sales tax?
Yeah, I'm
That's, Mike, I don't know where you come up with that percentage, but that's unbelievable.
Look at some of the places that don't pay their sales tax exempt and stuff like that, so that money wasn't coming in for revenue for that. I mean, you don't.
Well, then why don't you just address the ones that aren't paying any sales tax? And, I just don't understand,
And this is a lengthy discussion,
I understand, I'm not gonna take up any more.
No, we appreciate you coming up. This is, and I think hopefully maybe in January at some point, we are gonna be looking for people to help.
But in the
Be a
meantime,
committee to help.
but in the meantime, we're still gonna pay the assessment on the first half of taxes.
We are talking about possible ways that we can come up with an equitable solution. I mean, it's not done. And then the one thing that, and I won't say it's a silver lining in the cloud, but we have more control over this solid waste fee than we do the sales tax. Would you agree to that? Do we have more control over the solid waste fee than we do the 1% sales tax?
I'll respond to that with, government can always take the money, but it's really hard to get it back out of them.
Now, that's a general statement, Derek. I mean,
Well,
when you say government, that's a broad. Are you talking about state, federal, local?
Yep. Yep, I got it all covered. Thank you, gentlemen.
I would propose that we push this whole thing back a year.
Well,
That-
can't do that.
We've
Can't
already,
do that.
we've already budgeted.
Yeah,
for
sorry,
it.
but,
The funds are already tied up. What we can do is, through a cooperative, we can see if we can reduce some of our expenditures through the community by, having recycling implemented early, by having people reduce down so that we do not have to cart as much off. If we don't have to cart as much, we have more flexibility in terms of paring down the fees, making it more palatable for the first year, and giving us more time to understand how to properly implement it with the community, the community, because a recurring theme that's been in the last two meetings, and in almost, in the city-county aspect, there is a general lack of communication, and we understand that, and we're moving forward, we have to work on that. We have to work on the communication, not only between the city and the county governments, but also the county and its businesses and its community, to try and get us so that we take care of what we need to do, that we're charged by statutes to take care of as a county. That's not negotiable for us, we have to take care of that. We are trying a new policy, we think it's a good policy, we just need cooperation and so that it's palatable and workable for everyone on both sides.
Have you ever owned a business?
No, sir.
How about you, Mr. Bodenhouse? I sure do. What is it? I'm a farming business. I was gonna say, I thought you were a farmer. Tom, you're a farmer, right?
Used to be, not now.
How about you, Jeff?
Crop insurance territory manager.
Okay. I can see where you came up with your, tax,
And,
question.
I'm not gonna say I'm totally right, but I know that.
Well, farmers don't pay the tax, because, that's one of the areas where I don't pay the tax.
We do pay consumer tax. We're not exempt from that, and there are a lot of exemptions that have gone away. I can guarantee you, I can't go buy any kind of fencing material for my cattle like I used to. It's all taxable. I mean, it's not what you, basically the farm equipment is what it is.
Well, I'm gonna bring up how this affects, one congregation to you gentlemen. I got a tax, bill here yesterday. I was in the, church council meeting. And of course, this came up because every dollar in our congregation is getting older, like most of them here in the town. And we don't have the young kids coming in like we used to, and they don't have the money. So just staying afloat is a struggle. And we have cut everywhere we can possibly cut, and then I get a bill for more. And we've never had a dumpster. They were making a joke about the kids taking their trash home. That's what we do. The congregation, after a chili supper or something, they take the trash home. And yet we get another bill. And I just find it unfathomable that this can happen.
So, but you do generate some trash at the church.
Well, yeah. but we take it home.
You know, everybody can do that too, they want, they can move it
Kirk,
to the source.
If you have what you feel is a discrepancy, or hardship, file an appeal with Chase, and we can work with you on that.
I
We've been-
did get that form yesterday, and I appreciate
Okay.
that.
Okay.
But,
So do you have a parsonage and a church?
what?
Do you have just a church, or do you have a parsonage too?
No, we had to sell that, because, times got so hard.
Well, we've been down that road too, so I understand, you know, that was a concern to me of having, but we weren't, because of law, we can't exempt, because it's a service, we couldn't exempt it. What I have a problem with is that some places had a parsonage and a church, and why couldn't we somehow come up with a way to just make one for both?
And I understand that, and I appreciate that, but no, we didn't lose it, we had to sell it to keep the church open. The other thing is, working for an accounting firm, I get to see a lot of businesses. And, without going into too many details, these businesses, especially restaurants, have a razor-thin profit margin. And then you guys go and throw this tax on them. Man, if people leave, that's what's gonna happen. Because, you gotta make that decision, am I making a profit, or am I doing this just for fun? And if you're doing it for a profit, you gotta make a profit. And things like this will cut that profit entirely out. And we've got new, restaurants in town that are struggling, and to put this astronomical fee on them is just, I find it totally unacceptable. But that's me as one citizen. And as for the landfill, were you and I on that committee that closed the old dump and put the transfer station in?
Tom?
That wasn't you? Okay, yeah. Well, I sat on that committee that did that years ago. And, we foresaw things like this on down the road at that time. That's all I got, thank you.
Okay. And we understand, and that's what we're working on, especially like you mentioned, small businesses, especially restaurants, with that thin margin. We are very cognizant of that, and that's what we're working on, to develop a policy to address that immediately, so.
Okay.
My personal opinion is I think maybe it was a little aggressive, and that's part of the reason I didn't vote for the dollar amount. And I think that's gonna be a challenge as we go into next year, as we look at this and try to fine tune it, is to make adjustments and do better communication with how do people want us to fund these mandates. Because I'm talking about, these are mandated things that we don't have an option. Solid waste and the ambulance, joint communication is not exactly mandated, but that really is kind of the core of our, public safety starting point. And, how we fund that all may change. So, I'm very open to looking into next year as to changing the way, but it's gonna take a lot of cooperation with the funding mechanisms that we have that we're not collecting. I think that's where Jeff brings up the point that we're hoping that a county-wide let's reach some kind of agreement, because we've got kind of a crisis situation. And I don't want to get into it, but I will tell you what we learned at the KAC conference. Let's get this out of the way, because the next one coming down the pipe might even impact us a whole lot more. And I'm not talking about only county, I'm talking about city government, schools, and everything, depending on what the legislature does. We will probably have to have another countywide summit meeting just to discuss it with the other entities and what the possibility is, and we may need to do this before our legislators go down there, because they will vote on it this year probably. And if they vote what we're afraid they're gonna vote, we will have a situation.
Well, I'm familiar with working with KDHE. I spent 21 years in health, safety, and environment.
Well, and I appreciate it. It really is EPA. Because I've worked with KDHE a lot through my dairy organization that I work with. And KDHE is not that bad. It's just what they've been told they have to do. And, there's some overkill, as you know.
And this is my opinion again, but perhaps as our elected officials, you need to push back on the state and say, hey, you guys want these mandates, how are we gonna fund it, and maybe you need to fund it. It was the same thing when we closed the landfill. They said you have to close the landfill and put it in a transfer station. We went along, fine, but we should have said, hey, why don't you pay for it?
Well, You're exactly right, and I talked to him because this area organization I work through, because we have to work with issues and stuff, and so, I mean, I've been down at the State House a lot, I've done testified this and that, but there are some legislators that listen to you and some that won't. Now, that's fact, you know, I'm not gonna name any names, but, when I was trying to get support for redoing this vote, there was one legislator that told me he would not support it. I mean, you need to have your local legislators support when you take this through to revote it. You need to have their support, because they're gonna say, well, if they can't get along, just the heck with it, we won't even put the bill through. And it was all because of political reasons. He flat told me. He said, they don't like me in Atchison. He says, I'm not gonna, so. I mean, that's what we're up against. You're 100% right.
Well, then maybe the lines of communication need to open even further, and you let us know who these legislators are, and perhaps...
Well, the election's over, sorry.
Yeah, it is, for another several years.
Right, well, but it's, you know, here again, no, but I think if you have a, if we would have a meeting and have that information presented to us like it was presented to us down there, I think a lot of people will begin to realize, you know, the impact that some things that we as, and it's happening, you know, we talked to those commissioners down there, and what's happening is the feds are trying to back out of things, and then now the state's trying to back out of things, but yet we're mandated and we have to fund them here. You know, the guy that's on the bottom ring of the ladder, what happens to him usually? He gets to pick up the slack, basically. And that's why we gotta continue to look at the best ways to fund, and particularly these mandated things that the people, you know, expect us and or mandated to do. I mean, it's not gonna get any easier, I can tell you that. I mean, I've talked to some commissioners who've been in 20-some years, and they said they've never seen it this tough and this hard. I mean, it's gonna get worse if new legislation keeps coming down the pipe that's being discussed, so, nothing not political.
We probably do need to move on, not to
Yep.
diminish it, but we've got, Jack, we've got to discuss some things with Jack pertaining to law enforcement for Athens.
We thank you for your input and similar, and I think we emphasize a little more than we realize, so we're gonna try to.
Jason, did you have any, you were just up here?
Just observing.
Okay.
You know, welcome to county government.
Not all bad, we're gonna be good interaction.
Well, I think it gives us a starting point.
I thought I'd never do this, but Jack Carr said he can do recycling tomorrow. I thought we had to move heaven and earth to get people to recycle, just incentivize it, and
Well,
it gets.
I don't know, but I mean, you know,
Communication being changed.
That's communication, we have a deficiency.
you hate to say, oh, this has transpired, at the same token, people don't realize what kind of a good deal this is. And I don't fully understand, but I still don't think that, you know, those businesses, I mean, my understanding all was, I mean, anything you supply on the shelf, I mean, you know, you get a, you know, you wouldn't pay a sales tax necessarily, I mean, you collect it, because it's a retail, it's a retailer's.
Right,
retail.
there's.
And if they don't, I mean, I thought they qualified, because, you know, I've been in that business, I mean, I run a business, I buy $47,000 worth of product, and sell it at the concession stand, I don't have to pay sales tax,
I know restaurants also.
you know, because I'm reselling, and then I collect sales tax on the other end, so.
I got copies of the statute and law
Not
enforcement.
right now, maybe pretty soon.
I did get some responses about numbers and whatnot.
Okay.
Just an email on the internet doesn't seem to be working.
I'm not too slow.
The bandwidth of the treasurer's DMV system is really slowing things down, so that's one of the upgrades that Wes had talked about.
I did not try, watching the tag this morning, nothing coming through.
Well, I think we're at 6 megabytes. for DSL, which is pretty slow, because all the entities that are putting on,
Yeah, I think that's slower than I ever thought.
probably. That's lower than what I have in my office.
Feel free to come down and use my internet.
Well, we should probably at least discuss, Jack, the law enforcement training center and timing of that. We have a copy of the statute, that, talks about, election or appointment, of sheriff and the time at which, I think you've gotten information, as we probably have the same information in front of you that we do. It's, coming up here December 3rd through 14th, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's correct. So it does look like you will need to attend that. Is that gonna be an issue for you to attend the 3rd through the 14th?
No.
Okay. Probably a couple questions that come up are, if you go through the statutes, while you're while you go to that training, since, you aren't officially sheriff yet, it allows for us to have you hired on as a deputy. And so I think there's been some questions, you wanna you have some questions for us on that?
The only thing that concerns me is and it's not really a concern, just as far as if there's any other, after this training, when like the transition occurs and such, but I'm assuming that this class is gonna probably touch on a lot of that, but.
Well, there isn't by statute any transition time that happens. It's, you take office on January 14th at noon, and before that, John's the sheriff, and after that, Jack's the sheriff. There isn't, in the statute, anything built in about having a transition period where we got two sheriffs or something like that. Certainly, communication, again, communication will be key about figuring out what things need to be done, and hopefully the sheriff will work with you on explanation of those things, and hopefully you'll be able to talk to you before or after you took office about some of those challenges that come up. I did talk to him yesterday. There is a statute that requires him to appoint deputies in writing, and he's happy to do that. He did tell me that there actually is another officer who's attending the course the same 2 weeks that you're going. He's not going to your course. I think there's a different course, but there's a deputy that's going. I don't recall his name.
Kelly
Hanson?
Kelly Hanson.
Do you know him? Okay. He's going at the same time, which I guess is neither here nor there. We need to determine a couple of things. We need to determine salary as a deputy. John has told me that they're opening our $13.08 an hour to as deputies, $13.60 or something like that, and then the sergeant is Jeremy Peak. He makes $16.10 an hour, and those are so the deputy range, I guess, is $13.08 to $16.10 an hour. That whole range is a little bit below what Jack currently makes at the city. According to the city, $16.13 an hour.
Does this money come out of the sheriff's department budget, or?
I think the budget will easily allow, because he has positions that have benefits, so I don't think there's no big problem on that.
Yeah, there'll be a shortage.
Yeah. Okay. And that's for, it's 2 weeks, right?
It's 2 weeks.
Does that deputy, by deputizing, that only allows for 2, then is he not, I mean, how does the statute?
Well, the statute says that he shall be paid a salary as deputy sheriff while attending the law enforcement training center. So, it's,
I think the question has been you know, that, given that salary range, it's not like you're bringing, like, I think obviously the minimum on that 1308 is who has no experience. And I think the question's been is, where does it get paid? I guess with the experience, and Pat indicated basically about where he's, you know, what he's currently being paid at. I mean, I think we have in the budget, we're talking 2 weeks.
Not gonna make a break and stuff.
Yeah, I would probably suggest bringing him in at that, probably similar, it's gonna be a little bit below where you're at, but based on our range that we have established for 2012, I would probably suggest, and is that, do we set that, or is that?
I think you said.
Yeah, I guess I just propose that upper range, what you're talking, because we're talking about somebody that's, yeah, we're talking 2 weeks, for law enforcement training, it would be comparable to experience coming in, so. That's just my suggestion.
I can live with that.
I mean,
So if I need a motion to, entertain a motion to, for statute 19-801B, for newly elected sheriff Jack Laurie to be paid the amount of
$16.10 is what you're in the peak.
$16.10 an hour, December 3rd through 14th, Floyd Thames Law Enforcement Center.
Is it based on like an 8-hour day, that's what we're basing it on?
I think it's based on a 40-hour week, it's actually.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, just so it's clear, so people understand that we're not paying to sit down there and stuff, so, in terms of after hours and stuff, so. But, you know, I would so move that we take that action, Jeff. Mr. Chairman.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
We were having to have a formal ceremony, like, when we get his badge out, and we could just.
I mean, January 14th.
No, but we do have to have a written appointment, and I did talk to Ron about that, and we will have we'll have one. So,
And then any expenses related to going,
yeah, we're on the hook for those. Obviously, there's a cost of the class itself, and it's $700, so $650 for tuition and $600 to $750 for the room and board fees for the period, and then transportation we don't have. Transportation would be additional to that. I don't know how you want to handle that, if you want to pay mileage, if you want to have both of the two people that are going travel together, if you want to provide them with a car.
I guess I'd ask Jack that.
I don't have any, issues with riding down there with Kelly, as long as, I know that I have to be there on Sunday pretty early, it looked like. To check in.
I know he was going on Sunday.
Yeah, he's probably not as required to get down there as early as I am, as long as that's not an issue with him, I guess.
Right.
4:30.
4:30.
Between 4:30 and 6.
If they can work it out fine, if not, I mean, I realize, I know how schedules, I mean, it's a long distance, but I mean, I don't think it's an issue that, if it's gonna jeopardize either one of you guys' other obligations, so I don't think we need to worry necessarily about mandating that you guys ride together.
No, I don't have a problem with it.
Could be either or, I mean, if we provide, I don't know how we want to do that, if we provide a vehicle, or
Well,
obviously we got mileage.
I will say there will be an issue on the next week, because, that's gonna be December 9th. That's,
What's the,
Oh, yes, sir.
well, it should be county employee or.
Well, I'm sorry.
He will be a county employee, won't he?
Yes.
Okay, so he can get a county vehicle somewhere. Fraser has some extra, and John might have a vehicle that's not, you know, got it down there. If your times don't coincide.
right, which next Sunday, or the second Sunday probably might not, because I may have to stick around, till it leave.
That's a Sunday.
The not, we're talking about the 9th, is that what you just said?
It's the anniversary of,
Starting in the summer, okay.
So I might have to leave a little early on Monday, probably, because I'll probably end up doing it.
Okay, to go back down.
Go back down, yeah.
I don't see where that'd be a huge issue, even if, I can't imagine if, I would assume it's all in the same center. I guess.
It's all, it's all in place, but it's, I'm talking that, that first week it would be fine riding together, the second week each body was not gonna wanna leave early in the morning. And either way,
I assume
everyone's head.
I assume he's probably staying down there. I mean, the full 3rd through the 14th is.
He'll come back on the weekends, they don't.
Oh, okay, that, I guess, I didn't realize that, okay. No, we could,
We can talk about
that.
getting a vehicle or
That's
whatever.
not a big issue. If you two get to drive separate that second week, that's not big. Then outside of that, I mean, as far as like, you kind of run statute as far as there's no statute on like the transition period. It'd probably be a good idea at some point, probably prior to January 14th,
Would be an excellent idea.
to transition from outgoing sheriff to incoming sheriff, but there's no statutes that necessarily dictate that, but I guess I'm just probably suggesting
I
a
think
transition.
we just need to encourage
Yeah,
that. We can't mandate it, but we would encourage, some cooperation to do some transition, some essential things, so.
so I don't know what your timeline is too, as far as with current employment, I mean,
It's not gonna be an issue either way.
okay. Did you have like any suggestions or as far as like transition time, outside of law enforcement training, or I guess, do you have any more questions about the law enforcement training?
No, I just think that, maybe they'll have a little more information for me at that, and maybe give you a little.
Suggestions as far as when to start?
Right.
Okay.
I don't think anybody around this area is gonna know much about it, the transition, all of it, just 'cause it hasn't happened for so long.
Well, I don't know, necessarily any of us, if we're talking like a week or something like that before the court, I'm just throwing out days, I mean, I think we can probably work with you, if that's when, if that's kind of that transition bridge.
Yeah, I would just suggest wait till after this class, see what they say down there, and then kind of reconvene there. But
Well, Jack, congratulations, I look forward to working with you.
thank you.
I've enjoyed working with you in the past, so.
Sounds good.
Welcome aboard, unofficial.
It's gonna be a little bit different than what
We
you.
will need to get the form and all that information.
Okay.
Stop down in my office and talk to them.
Okay.
Okay?
I got a question here for the radio paper. The figures that Derek told, were they correct, or was they kind of miscued? Because I don't want it to go in the paper, or I don't want it to go on the radio, cause more problems. But if they're accurate, they're accurate.
He's in, based on the figures that I've obtained, I mean, he's within a decent, I think the amount that's collected, totally is collected a little less. I mean, based on, the figure I had for 2011 wasn't an actual audited figure, but it was closer to 1.8 million total county, based on the county sales tax. He had 1.63, so, I mean, based on the figures I got, the withholding from the cities that's a little low. I think it's more than that, per se.
The only thing I don't see on here is, I don't know if it's 2011, 2012, I guess there's no year listed on
I
it.
think he said 2011, which means
Okay.
it's not audited, which means he's still within that 10% range, so close, but
Sure.
not 100% accurate because it's not audited yet.
Yeah.
So, it's a reasonable statement. We're disagreeing about 10% difference, but
What he said, the part is right, is, I mean, we get our portion, I mean, the way it's been explained to me, that it doesn't matter where it's collected in the county, all goes to the state revenue department. And then they divvy it out based on a formula, and that may change slightly each year based on valuation, population, and this and that. So, it's been running I mean, we've been getting 43, 44, 45% in that. That's what the county receives on behalf of the county resident. I mean, and then other cities, your other governing cities get a certain percentage too. It's fairly small, but they get a certain percentage. And, you know, I included in this packet, I mean, there are ordinances where they agreed to pay their one share. But here again, ordinance can be rescinded.
Do you
It's
feel
the same packet, Mary, I had at the meeting.
That's with the interlocal agreement.
Well, it's not really an interlocal agreement now. I did accidentally run across an interlocal agreement, and that's what was signed, that back in 2003, 2004, that the SCOTUS was gonna sign. And I know the mayor of Langston County and think that they all sign an interlocal agreement, binding them to that. Now, I don't understand, that's why we get a lawyer, I don't understand though. I'm a simple man, when I seen what we voted for, I thought that was pretty simple. And then when I read the ordinance, I thought that's pretty simple. And then when you go and talk to the legal aspect, and I'm assuming that the city probably got a attorney general's ruling on it. And I think that's partly the reason that the way you go about voting a countywide sales tax is different than a city tax, in the fact that you have, because it's divvied out, unless it's specifically said any different, it's collected as a county tax, but it's divvied out according, because a lot of counties that, you know, as we visit with down there, I mean, they have county sales taxes and they share it, I mean, because, you know, but a lot of them do have sales, it's specifically for, I mean, Jackson County just passed one for road and bridge. Miami County has the sales tax, a certain
But I mean, yeah, like infrastructure, and having infrastructure.
Right.
I think there's only one county that I've seen, and I can't remember which one it is, but one county, I think, that technically has like statute or legislation on sales tax, and it was like 0.5%. I'd have to look and see what, I mean, it's not common, and you can see where it's not just an issue, it's a fundamental problem, I think, with it.
I can see where the solid waste problem might be not a problem, but a solution for this 1 cent sales tax. It's gonna take 1 year to get it straightened out, but then we'll get everything straightened out.
And this is that 1 year, 2013 is that 1 year, whether you say it's back taxes or forward taxes, I mean, it's 6 in one, half a dozen the other. You know, if you're paying your assessment in 2 halves in 2012, 2013, you're still gonna have, you have that 1 year, and I think if anybody's owned a business, they know, or gone into new ventures, you have that transition piece, a transition cost, and we're faced with a lot of different difficulties.
I think that's where, you know, challenge for us is I think we have to try to be as sensitive to businesses and across the organizations as we best can. And, you know, I'm quite sure that I'm not totally right, but I think that they, you know, in proportion, a lot of them businesses, you know, they're gonna buy office supplies, stuff like that, they probably pay sales tax on some of that. When you consider just the size of their business, the amount of trash they generate for 1 cent sales tax, you know, here again, we get back to fairness. I mean, nothing's gonna be 100% fair, don't get me wrong, but probably the proportion is not gonna be there, and I know we'll never get there 100%, that's why I think we're gonna have to work with them and say, okay, listen, what do you guys think? What is friendly to you guys and fair to our local other patrons and taxpayers? A funding mechanism for these things that we have to furnish. I mean, that's just all there is to it. I mean, you know, I have problems putting anything in on property tax, and you have to. But, you know, we got 3 funding mechanisms. Property tax, sales tax, and
You can look at it this way, some of the small businesses, like people's talking about, it's gonna hurt, but also, there's some big businesses here in town that's been getting by scot-free for years, you know, so.
Yeah.
It's bad and it's good.
Yeah, well, I just don't want them to look at it from the standpoint we're trying to pick on them, that they're not paying, because he's right, that's what the voters intended, and you know, believe me, my conscience, really, I did a lot of soul searching before I even accepted the concept of this study, of using that. my whole idea was, let's get through 1 year, because we didn't have a lot of planning when we were, was it March, when we were approached with the annual, I mean, and bless their souls, they said, we'll try to get through 1 more year. So they give us, you know, they give us a whole year to plan to get this ambulance thing going, and it's been a challenge. And, I mean, that's my whole take. I think these guys are bringing, that's the intent of using a lot of that sales tax, moving some of that sales tax money to help fund that, rather than put it on, we could have put it on property tax. I mean, that's the way it's always been funded, is property tax, but, it wasn't very much because we didn't pay a whole lot. Plus, because of the volunteer service and really the goodwill of the hospital, let's just face it, I mean, if what they told us, I mean, what some of the figures we heard, what they were losing, and you go figure what the volunteer services saved us, I mean, I think the new $400,000 is probably a pretty good bargain for us, to be right honest. But I went on different figures, you know, we just added by adding the fly car and say a $17 an hour, 24/7 paramedic, that's $150, and that's not figuring the cost of the vehicle. I mean, just to employ him, no benefits, that particular position is $150,000 about. And I'm sure Pat's got some.
Yeah, I think it was $330,000 to have 2 people 24/7 at the end.
And then you gotta add benefits, the cost of the vehicle stuff. So I mean, you know, when I told him the other day, I threw that out, just, you know, thinking that might be, and it was low, but you're probably looking at $250,000 is what that volunteer service is saving the county. So, and, you know, we're not locked into, I mean, you know, we're not locked into that other contract. I mean, if someone gets down the road where we think we can, you know, run it cheaper, we'll have the infrastructure, you know, but I don't wanna use the word cheap, I want lower price, you know.
One other thing, I received a couple others, which I think you all received. I had a crop insurance meeting with Jeff, and I showed him, it's about the sheriff's department and the Bartlett grain, and I understand that that's being checked out or looked at, or about him receiving money.
I think that's under review. Yeah, we've been approached with the same thing. So, that's something happened before I came on per se, but it's something I think that we're gonna have to resolve or make sure that everything's okay.
I think,
Pat's in.
Working on that.
Sorry, I have
No, thanks for her, no, we're
I have to go to a funeral, so. Okay. They're supposed to be in this, and I don't know if there is, people that requested notice of any meetings. Is there a open meetings act request of everybody's requested notice of meetings?
Is there a request or is there a?
Is there a list of people who have requested notice of meetings? I know when we've had special meetings, we've given notice just to the Globe and to the
I don't know that.
radio. And I don't know whether.
Yeah, like a lot of people don't comply with that, because they're, you know, that will be preparing something, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that anybody's requested to be on the list.
Yeah.
But, you know, citizens could request to be on the list, and then we have special meetings, we give notice. Yeah, that would be good housekeeping. Wow.
thank you.
Do you see any problem with people protesting their taxes, and therefore the money is held up for a while over the solid waste?
I don't think we should.
They can't protest for that?
They can file appeals.
Well, see, that's one thing that we have to figure out is, because you can't do pay under protest, and then if you're awarded, you get a certain amount rebated back. Also, we have to talk with Sheila to see if they can do percentages of the solid waste, 'cause as she understands it and as she's answered with the questions that have been presented thus far, you pay the whole sale of the solid waste fee, and then you
So it's not on after tax, is that what you're saying? Think she can't divide, I think they.
They
Charge
have
them second.
and protest, and if you reduce it, then so it's always your second.
is that sales, or the solid waste fee as part of that number that has the dates?
Yes, it should be.
It's a special assessment that's on your tax base, and you have to pay it by December
So the two things are, if we decide on a lower percentage, or we have to do, agree to the 50% for processing purposes and then rebate back an additional the percentage difference. Whether she can do that on her computers, whether it's something that we're gonna have to keep a database on, how can we actually transactionally do
I
that?
hope you got a good filing system where you keep all these appeals. We're gonna have to have a lot of folders.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's only been a handful, actually. I'm really surprised. We were expecting 10% and it's barely 1%, so. For
Might be
2 weeks.
more than when the deadline gets here, though.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
preparing for the flood. Yes, sir.
Sheila spoke to me about that this morning. She kind of indicated she didn't have any way of rebating that money back. That they, protested the win. So,
And do they protest, do we have, we will have to work out a, do they protest?
If you do payment under protest, and you pay the whole amount, and it's reduced, then there would be a rebate, they would have to come back.
Mhm.
They only have to pay that if you came in person.
Yeah, but if a person paid in full, I mean,
Then
they dispute
payment
that,
under payment.
yeah, then you'd have to rebate. Yeah, there's ways to rebate. If you pay the full amount, you did a payment under protest, and then they would have to, you know, if it was determined that the value was less, then they would have to rebate. So there's obviously a system that's gotta be designed to kick back.
Yeah, there is. I mean, if you're doing an abatement, it goes towards that, current year.
Mhm.
So, there's that. And I mean, we have a percentage table, just trying to figure out what, because we do have the 850 budgeted for solid waste. How we can make reductions other than 50% work. I mean, it's gonna take a proposition on our part, some dialogue on another part, and then some more arguing. So, it's possible, just because if we do, by cash basis, get that second block contract by January 1, just paying $30 a ton versus $34 a ton definitely helps. For between January and May, that's a significant amount saved, so it is possible. But, you know, we have to get that piece in place, then we have to figure out what we're gonna do with businesses as far as hardships, as far as reductions. I mean, getting a policy together so that we can get it executed by the deadline, and then how we can make that amount work.
What's a good way to push, instead of getting flooded, like, I'm just thinking like December 18th, 20th, in that time frame, as far as like the appeals?
We already had discussed, because there was a question of whether we disclosed the notice.
Mhm.
So we will need to send out to the exact same addresses that statements got sent out. Probably will end up being a couple of sheets, one explaining the process, explaining, what the solid waste, because a lot of the calls that I get, people just want an explanation.
Mhm.
They want why that number's there, either how it's calculated, or what it pays for,
Mhm.
and is this one-time deal? I mean, get a briefer, a more succinct explanation, and then on the next page, you get, a appeals process, and if we could tell people, you can, if you have vacancies, we can put it on track, so that if you have a vacancy, it's a different process than if you are protesting or you need a reassessment, because that will clean up the processes. It'll be 3 big folders instead of 1 giant folder.
Yeah, I think you need to make, I mean, vacancies are gonna be a little different, because I know there's people, I mean, that have vacant houses, I know they're probably gonna be permanently vacant. We don't have any way, and the appraisers don't either, so it's probably gonna be a yearly thing, so they're gonna have to understand that this process may have to go on and on, unless you come up with a new classification that they agree with this, that's the only downside to this. I mean, you've got these little exemption things and stuff that it's just hard, the ideal thing would be is let everybody take care of their own trash. I mean, that's ideally, but we're not handed that situation. Because what happens is down there in Bill's beautiful country down there, there's a lot of nice big dishes and stuff. He'll have some stops.
There's probably 90% of my neighbors that have theirs personally hauled off now, but that's about, been doing it for years.
Yeah, I think when, I don't know if it's a study or when, I think it was in the study, they had the number of how many people were picking up. It was kind of surprising. It was
35%, based on the study,
Yeah.
but that was arbitrary, because they didn't have the numbers. It's closer to 15%. The less, there's, like you asserted, people either don't consume as much, they burn it, or rarely they'll make one stop. They do not have the trash generation as a city or a business. And so for solid waste study to throw that 35% out, and then earlier, it was said that we can't account for 45%. No, it's incorrect information, because he got that from the study. I mean, we have obviously more information because we have the study. It's 15% out of county, and what they included in that number was C&D, construction and demolition, that doesn't need to be hauled off. We actually landfill that in our own place.
Being diverted.
It's being diverted out, and it's immaterial for the solid waste purposes. It's a number that doesn't really exist.
I think they noted, like, in the last 2 years, the higher diversion rate of construction demolition. I think it was pretty loose, and I think there's probably stuff getting into our solid waste that's being transferred out of the county, which obviously costs us more versus varying it, per KDHE statutes.
Those are only getting tougher now, because landfill management is, I think the EPA has job security on that one.
Well, on our C&D side, it's filling up too, so we've got a timeline on that one, it'll be full.
Those other people coming.
Yeah.
I talked to Brown County last night, they got 100 years, now they redeveloped one, and they got 100 years for C&D.
Without any recycling, or without any diverting out the material that could be reused. Revitalization. Just go in on?
They have a pretty good sized tipping fee.
Yeah, well, for out of county particularly.
Well,
And he flat said, he said that's kind of where we make our money. Is on the tip of it, because they are on a tipping fee. They get a large volume out of Richardson County, Nebraska, that comes down there, because they don't have our transfer. I mean, theirs is basically it's like ours, it's a transfer station, but it's in the center of the county, and it's hauled off by Hands hauls theirs off. But it's totally funded by, if you bring 50 tires in, you pay X number for tires, and then they have to take care of it, but that's how they fund it with a tipping fee. He didn't want to go into detail, and it was an interesting meeting. We was gonna interview 3 candidates for a part-time CEO for the multi-county, and none of them showed up. So, one of them called and said that she wanted to withdraw, another one just didn't show up, and another one, he had emailed through the day, or late in the day, and that's it.
So like, when you're talking about like the 20%, you just need to work on.
Well, okay, so, just doing some rough figures. We assume that 10% of, we just assume, we had taken out, city and county residential rates at 10% right off the top, just for vacancies or delinquencies or things of that sort. So that's gonna generate about, 325,000-ish, just on the residential alone. So that's, and then what we also did, if the non-residential fee was less than $300, that's pretty much the number, and not many people have contested it other than not-for-profits, because they're
And that's what my question is why, I didn't think that, most of your churches don't have that big enough attendance, that how could they come up with $244? Is it based on a container size?
The one instance that I think, that's really stuck out was a church thrift store. And then, the New Assembly of God.
Yeah, New Life Assembly.
New Life Assembly, that was the mix-up. The actual church itself was reassessed at the 61. And if we do have instances where that razor thin line gets crossed, we can make exemptions. Just because we don't want the fee to be the reason churches close, business close, that's not good. But just figuring, say we said, 20% by the first payment, so that, if you have $10,000, or, if you have, several restaurants have the 18 to 22,000, or 2,200, bill because of the nature of their business. So if they just pay 20% initially, and then we can figure out how they can reduce, and whether they pay the balance of the 80% or the 60% or the 50%, just seeing what the numbers would generate, given the percentages, and seeing if that is feasible, that we could operate, especially if we did have diversion, if we did not have to pay for more than we have to. If we could get somebody to, whether it be Martin's or Deckenbach, to offer something that diverts it out, it's cost effective for them. They actually want recyclable materials diverted out. And so if we can, in any way, shape, or form, just immediately, before the curbside recycling gets underway, immediately start diverting out a lot of the unnecessary volume, that's less than we have to pay for. In addition to the new Deckenbach contract, which will save us a lot of money. It'll save us $4 a ton. And that's before we actually have to start paying for recycling from the curbside program. So it's obviously it's not ideal, but if we can get some definite reductions in what we have to pay for, we can make some concessions. So it's a matter of us coming up with some numbers to see what's attainable, what's achievable.
Yeah, it takes a commitment, it takes a commitment.
It would take a commitment, it would take in writing. If a business wants to partake they'll pay their 20%, they have to commit to either recycle or reduce in some shape or form, because we can't just take it on your word that you'll reduce, and then we still have to pay for the service, we still have to pay for the mandate,
And to me,
give them the handshake. So that's where we're at.
Under the current commodity price for recycling, it should highly be encouraged that they take care of their own recycling in some manner, because we're gonna have to, under Deckenbach, it's a little different under the present current, but then when the new contract starts, if something don't change, instead of $31, and the commodity price don't change, it's $50, what it's gonna cost us to haul. So, if they can, that's gonna be more significant than necessarily the amount of trash that they quit generating. It's the amount of recycling that they maybe even deliver to the landfill. In other words, if they find a private hauler that'll take their stuff, that's how much less that we have to haul. At the same time, it will help the city. If they're a city business, I'm not saying it could be a rural business, but it'll lower their cost of transportation, to some extent. So, it also, that's part of that is one of the downfalls, really, of the one cent sales, there's no incentive. There's just absolutely no incentive.
And in 2 weeks, we've seen more incentive than.
But it doesn't mean that it can't be used it cannot be used as a supplemental source of income for it. Because that would ease the burden on businesses particularly.
It would.
Let's say, that scenario, if there's a couple different ones.
What I'll do is I'll look at our solid waste budget, because we do have the 850. What can be handled within 3 months before that second payment due May 10th? What can work for that 5 months? And that will determine what percentage we can work with for the businesses. And then, after that, you know, we will have the recycling, we'll have that, May is gonna be a pretty big year as far as the solid waste, budget's concerned. So we will have to, figure out also what we need from people if they do wanna pay the reduced price. We do need a number that we are gonna, what we're gonna get in the second payment, so that we can get our solid waste, paid for. But we'll see if we can negotiate a higher rebate for, from Deffenbaugh, because we have a new business, proposition for them, and that if they, ahead of schedule, actively participate in source separated, they put a 40-yard roll-off for cardboard out there, they're gonna be making money, because that's the most valuable commodity. And if it's source separated, and they haul it off, it's no cost to us, and it diverts out, so it actually saves us money, but it makes them money too, so. We'll have more information on Tuesday as far as what Deffenbaugh, will negotiate, as either, we need, because the contract that we have isn't binding yet, we still have some room to, given our current circumstance and the new events, we can explain, you know, this is what we're really looking for now.
And we've also got waste management.
We also have waste management if we need to rebid. So.
No, I meant like waste management's current contract through April, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, as Pat and I have discussed, it's whether or not we want to use the cash basis to opt out. It's 4 months early, I don't know if that has, whether or not you opt out a month early or a year early, if that has any difference in terms of our residual effect. So, it can, if it's an absolute necessity, we can get the Deffenbaugh contract in place by January 1st. So, you know, it's whether we want to be cordial or not. So, and I can say from personal experience, waste management hasn't exactly been cordial. And I know Matt is just, he's very fed up with them, because they're constantly behind, because they subcontract out. Was it a week ago, he was down to his very last trailer, he had 3 full tarps ready to move. He was down to his last trailer by mid-morning. So, you know, we've seen a lapse in service, so I don't know if that's indicative of a good partner or not, but we have had some issues, so.
You know, it's gonna be probably it's gonna be a little challenge, knowing that they're not gonna have contract, I think he's gonna have to continue to push them to get that subcontractor there, because otherwise they're gonna drag their feet.
We don't have a requirement in our previous contract for them to disclose who the subcontractor is, so we can call them up. But I think that's something that if we were able to find out, we could get them on speed dial and get our trash movers that we're paying for.
We'll work up a couple different scenarios. That Kim is up here, so that's when Kim needs something.
Yes, I just want to,
Unless you want to talk trash.
no, I don't want to trash. I just wanted to
Or
drop
trash
off, I got a quote from Geocom, since we don't have a GIS person, quote for a 1-year maintenance and a one-time fee to help us get our mapping up to date. This is everything went out in 2010, they did an appraisal on our mapping situation of what needed to be updated. That has not been completed. So the appraisal will be to get that updated, get the current mapping we have updated with, of course not the new aerials, but what we have. Working with Mike McDermott to get all the different layers for the fire hydrants, Knox boxes. I found out also that our cell phone phase 1 calls are not being plotted on the map at all because things weren't done in 2010. So basically, they're trying to help us to get it going, otherwise we're just sitting on the new mapping that we purchased.
because they can't do anything without getting the rest of this updated.
Okay. Seems we might.
So, you guys want to read over it, kind of lengthy, kind of fun, but I'll come back on Monday, see what you guys think, or if you have any questions.
Do you have a technology interpreter for me?
Well, if, I probably need one too, because a lot of stuff I have to call them, because I'm not GIS at all. So it is very confusing, trying to understand what all they need. But I'm trying, I know I have to get all the cell phone sectors, they need cell phone towers, cell phone sectors, they need my MSAG. Got a meeting next week with the new EMS, so we can line out for the ESDs, emergency service zones, to have on the mapping. A lot of stuff that needs to be done within the next year in order to get this up and going. So, anyway, wanted you guys to, and have something to read over Thanksgiving. So, like I said, I'll just come back up on Monday, so if you guys have any questions, or anything, just we'll go over it then.
Okay.
Sound good? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
You too.
Yeah.
Kim, about the board now, it's,
What you received?
Mike McDonald's gonna be chairman of the new board, John's gone. For the telecommunications.
I think some of that advisory.
Yeah, it's, Mike Wilson, Mike McDermott, Mike Wilson, Mike McDermott, Sheriff Calhoun, and Bob Harmon was on.
Well, see, that's.
That was advisory board. Yeah.
But yeah, this pretty much coincides with.
John will off,
Huh?
John will go off. John will go off.
Right, right, so.
Okay.
And I did, like I said, I did get with Mike McDermott, and he did give me the fire hydrant, box boxes, and he's gonna think that there's, because they said if there's anything else that we think would be important to have on the mapping, to let them know, because they can do a layer. So with the fire department actually being able to pull up this web-based one, he said he was gonna check into it to see if there was something else that would benefit them on mapping to have. Well, he thought, sprinklers, yeah. But he said he would have to get that together, so, anyway.
Come back here and you take the sales.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
See, I noticed. It wasn't included.
For the $15,000 for forwarding.
Really?
That's map, data, update services.
That gives our GIS an emergency management layer so they can click on. But that's actually less than I was expecting, because with GIS, you can also put a road maintenance layer in there as well.
That doesn't include maintenance. Maintenance is $3,300 a year as well.
Like licensing, maintenance, things, okay, software. But.
We're still gonna need, we're still gonna need GIS personnel.
Oh, absolutely, but I was wondering, because there's probably 101 different applications for GIS. One of them that I remember from the KAC conference is the GIS as road maintenance, so that we can put in order of importance or necessity which roads need to be repaired. I don't know if that's something that we've had an issue with, but.
I don't think we we have multiple departments that haven't even, we have multiple departments that don't even really utilize GIS data.
Well, because we have one guy, and he does primarily residential mapping, so. But for $15,000 to get an update and add another layer without using more man hours and take up more time, not a bad use of money.
Fine, what's that dedicated?
How much more for the community?
I don't know, it's asking.
I don't know how many parcels between when I started and now front page above the fold
Actually.
has something about solid waste disclosed. The top 10 producers are gonna be in this range, what the basic unit is, how it's gonna be. I mean, as far as mediums, I mean, if you take, you produce more papers.
I don't know, you know.
Do we have to call them a meeting?
People interpret it, but yeah, you know,
That's 1.2.
and I don't know where he got,
Well, I thought $61 was gonna be
Well, if everybody, when they say read, they mean give a quick scan over and extrapolate the
Yeah.
numbers, and it's 51, that's how it is. When you see MGP, $30,000 less than, that's not me. I don't know if we,
if I realized, if, you know, I left something out, I tried to get it in the next story, in editing, if I thought something was not clear or misportrayed. You know, I went back to the editors and I said, no, that's wrong, you know, because, you know, I caught that a couple of, well, there was one headline that kind of confusing, and I didn't catch it until after. It was like city approved, or county approved.
So by the time we get this, we'll be at.
I think it's about curbside recycling, and I didn't see that until after. I mean, you know, I walked right over it.
By the time we get.
And I put in a clarification, which is after the fact, people probably don't see that, but, you know,
I
the
think
editor.
that figures leaking.
I mean, we've heard the past two meetings, there's apparent lack of communication, and, I mean, we have two citizens that are just ardently against everything that we're going to do, and the basis for that is taxation without representation. And to which I say, I mean, we can't do much more other than send you personal invites if you put yourself on a mailing list to be updated, or if, you know, send out a weekly letter to every tax.
I don't know what they want, because anybody can come up here at any time, at any meeting.
We do have open meetings.
They can go into, I mean, they can walk into any office and see what office, you know, has, if they don't know, they can inquire where it is.
I'm just, this is a recurring theme, and well, that sounds great, yes, you need to communicate.
Well, I thought they sounded better today than they did the other day, because I thought, were you here?
No, I couldn't, I couldn't remember you, that's what you frankly, I couldn't make it.
Yeah.
You missed the show.
I heard about it.
It was just,
Actually, we might have it on the video, it's
Same people, Derek.
same more people.
same crap, you know, you hear it coffee club, and that's exactly right, and you don't dare, they won't stand to be corrected.
You can go down there at Willie's Friday,
Yeah,
I don't know, if it's one of us up here, you actually go to Lions Den, and I know Pat and I are gonna go to Benedictine, they're reasonable, I give them, they're on, their transfer, we actually have their numbers, it's not a arbitrary, we have their numbers, but they don't know, and most of their stuff's D&D, so it's way more, and that, we should point look at, because they built a new dorm. Which is, I mean, the USD situation, we didn't, we have that like one calculus, we have that one equation that we have. It wasn't worth for USD, they call it theirs by second. So there's, we can either overshoot and charge our schools $30,000, or we can undershoot. I mean, nobody's gonna be happy, but we are gonna lose.
And I got your press release, and I think.
The county commission, we can ask them several questions, or we could hear it too.
You know.
They just trying to.
I don't know how to explain it any better, I can only explain it as well as I understand it, you know, and it's very complicated. And we're supposed to be writing at like an 8th grade level, so.
You know, in here.
Right.
But you know what's so
They got us
some of those people that are complaining have been on a delinquent tax.
We should invite them to the county.
From the guy from Moore Hill, but he has a legitimate right, or is his 10 times as deep as before?
No, his actually, we do have, 12 entities that because they have designated trailers, we can actually measure them every time they come into the transfer station. We've been recording that information in May. So we have May till October, we have every weight they